Welcome to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. I'm your host, Marley Freygang, and I'm here to help you filter out all the bullshit and become the next It Girl. This podcast explores the reality of what it really takes to make it out there. As it turns out, it is way less Instagrammable than I thought it was going to be. I'm still very much a work in progress, but there's simply nothing else I'd rather be doing than chasing my dreams. So let's learn from my mistakes and work together to achieve our dreams with more confidence, clarity, and direction. Let's get after it. Well, welcome, Melissa.
Thank you.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast today to talk about so many things, to talk about Arlene Cycle Support, to talk about, honestly, being a woman and just like having this abundant life and so many things. I'm really excited to dive in.
I'm so excited to be here. It's going to be so good.
Okay, so I want to start by talking about, your story and where this whole journey with Arlene Cycle Support kind of began. And so can you tell us how this journey got in motion for you?
Yeah. So health and wellness has always been my vibe. I think we truly desire and strive to be healthy. And in our modern day world, it just sort of got lost. Is like, what is healthy? What do I do? There's so much on the market. We're working with different personal trainers that have different ideas. The media is telling us what's healthy and what's not. And so I just kind of went down my own health journey of listening to like what the media was saying and not feeling good. Like literally eating as healthy as I could, organic foods, working out with personal trainers, valuing not only like what my body looked like, but what it felt like. And the more that I leaned into being fit, being healthy, the worse I was feeling. And I'm like, there is just something that's not adding up here. Like, how am I literally doing all the things? I'm the healthiest person that I know, and I don't feel good. Now, I could understand if, I'm just putting crap into my body, I'm taking tons of diet pills, I'm just living a crazy, chaotic life, but I'm truly trying to be healthy, to look healthy, to feel healthy, and I don't feel good. And so this is kind of where it started, where things were not connecting for me. And I started to read more books. I started to see different practitioners, and no one really had the answer for me. They would literally look at me and be like, "You look beautiful." I'm like,
"Great, thank you so much."
For a 25-year-old, I don't feel like I have enough energy. I don't feel like I have clarity in my mind. I'm feeling fatigue. Well, your blood work looks great. I'm like, so this is just normal then. This is like what it feels like to be a 25-year-old human now. I thought it happened when you were like 80, but now I guess it hits us when we're 25.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so I just continued to kind of chip away at, why am I not feeling optimal? Like, am I really going to settle for this as my norm, living on caffeine and drinking coffee for energy and counting calories and crushing it at the gym, and at the end of the day, just still feeling like I don't feel vibrant and optimal. And it got to the point where I finally started going to the doctor when I was at an all-time low. I felt really depleted. I felt really tired and really fatigued. And the doctors just kind of were like, the only thing we could say is that like, maybe you're depressed. Oh, like, definitely not depressed. Yeah. I have a very stable mindset. I love my life. I'm definitely not depressed. And the two options they gave me were to take hormones, synthetic hormones, or antidepressants. And I thought, at the time, like almost 27 years old now, I just thought something doesn't feel good to me. Something doesn't feel right. And that's when I met Arlene. And the first thing Arlene told me, and she's this older kind of hippie woman, and we had this conversation, and she said, whatever you do, please don't take the antidepressants and please don't take the synthetic hormones. But I would love to see you and I'd love to work with you. So here was the start of my journey into kind of uncovering what it truly meant to be healthy, how to truly heal my body from the inside out, honor my body, and to reclaim my personal health and my personal power. And it started with hair analysis.
Okay, what is hair analysis? Because, we know what a blood test is, but what is the intricacies of having your hair tested?
Yeah, I was really freaked out by it. I was like, you are not chopping off my locks.
How much hair do you have to give?
It's more than I was comfortable with. It's about, it doesn't seem like a lot here, but, it's a chunk.
Oh, so it's not just like a root and a strand. It's like
It was a chunk.
3 inches.
And you need an inch at the base of your skull, like your newest regrowth. So you have to pin your hair up, take about, you can't just trim it off the ends. It needs to come from clipped as close to your head as possible. And I'll never forget Arlene saying, when you feel better, this isn't going to be a big deal. Because I was like, oh no, not doing that.
Nope.
This is where I draw the line. But it's amazing because hair analysis is one of the truest forms of mapping the body. So when we're doing blood work, it's really just a picture of what's happening in that moment. Our cortisol levels are rising and falling. Our hormones are rising and falling. But when we test the minerals in the hair and what's spilling out through the hair, it's a clear picture and a map of the metabolic patterning that's been happening over a span of time. So instead of like coming into the doctor and testing your blood that way, and maybe your cortisol is being high because you were stressed or your hormones being off because of where you are in your cycle, your hair analysis will actually give you a really clear picture of what's been going on kind of long term. And that's what's profound about the hair analysis. Now, the difference between hair analysis and blood work, it's read differently. So it's not like, oh, your hair chart is showing that you're deficient in calcium, magnesium, so you need calcium, magnesium. It's this beautiful chart and pattern of if you're spilling out calcium, magnesium, it means this. If your copper is high, it means this. And so it's this intricate knowledge that I'm so grateful and blessed to have learned that isn't as straightforward as like, oh, it's showing you're deficient, you need this. So over 20 years, religiously every 3 months, I mapped my hair, my metabolic mapping with Arlene, and she would give me, like you're sitting there with a little prescription, this is what I think you need to take. And she always did it in 3 phases. It was the middle of the month, PMS, and on cycle. But we never addressed my hormones, and this wasn't period help. This was like the standard for my well-being. We just never talked about it. It was totally normal for me. I'd go to Whole Foods, I'd get all of my supplements, I'd make them into 3 different packs, I'd take them at the specific times of the month. And what's so beautiful about this, I want to tell you, so when I was 2 years old, I wanted to play the piano, like so bad. And everyone told my mom, she's too little to learn to read music. And she cries and she wants to play the piano. So they taught me to play the piano by ear, by listening and by feeling and understanding. This is how I learned minerals in my body. Arlene never told me, this is why you need this, go do it. She would give me the answers. I would go, I would buy all the things, and I would literally listen to what things felt like in my body. And I created this relationship with minerals and understood that when I felt a certain way, these certain things rebalanced me, made me feel better, or supported me really without even needing to know the intricate science behind it. And so I also have this beautiful relationship with minerals now where I actually can even like look at someone and based on what I'm seeing, feel like they need a certain mineral or this would be supportive to them. And so it's really interesting the way that I learned mineral balancing and the way essential minerals serve our body by literally becoming the guinea pig and developing relationships with how my body felt. And as I healed, this is why I'm so passionate about Arlene and bringing it to women is this mind, body, soul connection.
And what are these minerals? Like, I mean, I feel like we'll throw around like calcium and B12. Like, what are the things we're even looking at? You know, what, like, we don't need to get into like what they do, but like, what are usually the things that come out of the hair map that even show you what could be deficient or too high or whatnot? Yeah.
So what's interesting about the hair mapping is the most important thing is it gives you a metabolic pattern. And so it'll come out as fast oxidizer, mixed oxidizer, slow oxidizer. And so it's actually a metabolic pattern that we're in. And so instead of like we say like, oh, I need this mineral because I'm deficient in this, the body is so miraculous. Like the body can literally create what it needs. And so the key in taking essential minerals, and they're not called essential minerals for nothing. You know, I didn't name them that. They're essential minerals that we typically find from our food source. And in this modern world right now, we're really deficient in essential minerals. Our soil is really deficient. Our air quality is really toxic. Our water source is not quite what it should be. And so there's just never been a time that I believe in history that we've really needed to get extra essential minerals just for the well-being and balance of our body. So when we're talking about like, okay, well, how do I know if I need more minerals, or what do I need, or what am I deficient in? The baseline is, how is my central nervous system? How is my detoxifying system? And how am I connected to my body so that my body can balance and heal itself, and that I can be so connected to what feels good and what doesn't feel good to me that I literally know what I need. And what I noticed in all of my years of mapping and testing my hair is that no matter what metabolic pattern I was in, there were some things that were always the same. Mm-hmm. So when my on cycle was always the same, my PMS was always the same. And through different metabolic patterns, there were some things that were always the same. Like we would only shift some things here or there. And really when we would shift it, it would be to balance the body as a whole versus trying to manipulate or micromanage the body. So I think what we want to do as a whole and as women is kind of get away from, oh my gosh, I don't feel good. It means my estrogen is low, so I need estrogen. Mm-hmm. Because really when we look at the cycle of life and we look at the body is so powerful in creating what it needs, balancing itself and healing itself. We want to look at the body as a whole picture and say, okay, something is not being supported the way it should. Therefore, what can I do to support the body as a whole? What can I do to drop out of fight or flight and into parasympathetic so that my body can begin to regenerate and heal in a very, very balanced and stable way?
And I'm sure you hear this. Do you see a lot of the same issues that people have? And do you remember what some of the issues you had were at the beginning of your journey?
Yeah. And so the thing is, I never want to minimize how someone's feeling, because when you're not feeling well, it's a crisis. Mm-hmm. And when you're in a crisis, you think you're the only one that's in it. Totally. You're like, there's totally something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. I'm not okay. My hormones are a mess. I don't know what to do. And I hear that same story over and over again. Mm-hmm. Every single woman is saying something is wrong with me. And so what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing in society is that it's actually the lack in creating stability and strength for the body than it is anything else. So when the body is under an immense amount of stress, and we go into stress, not just mental stress, physical stress, when we're not getting enough fuel, and even when we're eating well, we're not getting enough essential minerals. If we're not taking antioxidants, we've got free radicals, high inflammation, and that is a chronic state of stress for the body. And when the body drops into this state of stress, it starts to unravel. So our hormones start to suffer. Mm-hmm. Our inflammation increases. And so really my message and the medicine of Arlene is to literally stabilize the body. And so it kind of is like, I'll look at, women as a whole, and I don't think that it's the hormones, and I don't think it's, X, Y, or Z. I'm just seeing that there's not a foundation being laid of taking things that are highly supportive to the body to create stability through the ebbs and flows of life that allow the body to heal itself.
Absolutely. So let's talk about taking Arlene Cycle Support. Like, you have this whole chart that, it has to do with what times you're going through. Can you tell us the phases?
Yeah. So I love to simplify this. There's so much information.
There's so much information.
And they call it this and they call it that and it's this. I just break it down into the easiest. We've got on cycle, which means we're bleeding. We've got middle of the month, mm-hmm. where it's our most fabulous time. And then we have PMS. It's pretty easy, and I mm-hmm. think that it's okay to just say, I shift into PMS, I shift into bleeding, and I shift into the middle of the month. And that's really how I organize Arlene Cycle Support. It's really, really important to cycle not just our minerals, but even our foods. Like if we look back through history and we look back at, really the natural and organic thing to do is to eat the foods that are in season, to mm-hmm. cycle everything, really. We live in a very cyclical world. And for a long time, we've actually been trying to be very linear. Yeah. And I think we're coming back to getting in balance with cycles and with our cyclical nature. And so I think it's incredibly important to cycle our minerals. And as we cycle our minerals, there's certain things that really support us women as we shift. And there's something really beautiful that happens when you have like a kit of minerals. You know exactly what to take. You're not like going to Whole Foods, just taking all kinds of random stuff. And let me tell you, depending on what mineral pattern you're in, there are some minerals that you don't want to take. You know, women will think that they're very low energy and they want to boost their energy. So they'll start to take a lot of B vitamins, which are very stimulating, which cause us to overstimulate the body. When in fact, when we're feeling sluggish and tired, we actually want to calm the body down. We want to drop out of that really revved, you know, you wouldn't be revved anymore if you're experiencing fatigue because you've gone through the revved cycle and now you're actually in burnout. And so we want to address the burnout. But there are certain minerals that we don't want to just take whatever all the time. And so I feel like the baseline of Arlene is like the essentials. Like no matter what pattern you're in, like this is essential. But when you have your kit and you notice like, and every woman does this, like they'll go into PMS and forget that they're in PMS somehow. You know, it's like, I don't know what's going on today. I feel really crazy. I actually hate my husband.
Right. That's usually when I call my mom being like, I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm just crying. And yeah, totally.
It blindsides us every month. And with Arlene, I feel like Arlene is life support. It's like, as soon as I feel like, why am I ravenous today? And I'm like, oh yeah, I need my minerals. I go straight to PMS pack, switch my minerals, everything switches. It's almost like having this deep understanding with your body that you're not going to be the same every month, and that's okay. And as soon as you shift, you know exactly what to do to support yourself. So this is like a domino effect into your life. It does not need to be complicated. And I know this is new for many women, but once you tap into, okay, I'm not the same every day. That means I'm going to support myself differently. It's not going to be hard or confusing. I'm just going to listen. And when I notice that I'm feeling more hungry, agitated, tears are coming, this is a beautiful thing. We are so miraculous that we get to be that sensitive. And when we start to create stability as a woman so that we can use that time of the month as our superpower, like watch what comes online for you. You know, it's like you start to know things that you didn't know last week. You start to see things in your business that are more inspiring to you. So we get really sensitive so that we can gather and gain more information and really use it to our advantage. We just haven't really been empowered to operate like that. So I think with Arlene and doing minerals 3 times a month gets us into the mindset of tapping into our silical power and being really stable through that. So we want to create stability through a very inconsistent wave. And it's like, well, we kind of have both things going on. We're trying to manage this cycle in a very crazy way, and we do it, or we're so stable that we're actually not reaping the benefits of the joys of cycling. And so we want to do both. We want to reap the benefits of being a woman and living this cyclical ebb and flow life, but in a really solid and stable way, feeling really empowered so that those around us are even empowered by the way that we move through our cycle as a woman.
I love what you were saying about how like it's kind of, we live in like a linear society and we try to all stay in the same place at the same time. What can you say about like that fear that I feel like I personally have had too about, you know, being females and like going through a cycle? Like what can we hear to take away like the stigma about like, you don't have to be linear all the time?
Yeah. I think it starts with really owning it for ourselves. You know, when you feel empowered and supported, and that's what I hope Arlene will be for women, to give them the confidence that like, I am a woman, and not in a way of like, I'm just going to be a cycle. It's like, I'm going to be stable through my cycle and I'm going to honor myself. And what that means is listening to when I shift and being aware that I get to shift the way I support myself. So it's not really taking away from anything. You know, I do photo shoots, interviews on my period during PMS. I've created such stability through my cycle that it doesn't really, I don't need to make a big deal about it. I don't need to hold back, but I do support myself in different ways, such as, you know, as small as like, okay, I'm going to wear PMS pants today. Like I've got one size bigger in my favorite jeans because those are my favorite jeans. And I just know I'm going to be a little bit more bloated, and, you know, not making a big deal about it with people, but also showing those around you that you honor how you feel and that it doesn't break you. You just make intentional choices to honor that you are different today, whatever that means. And it's okay to say, hey, I need to cancel dinner tonight, or to not beat yourself up because you are bloated, and to empower yourself to just wear baggy clothes that day, and to still own where you're at, because it's such a beautiful process. And when you're supporting yourself through it, you feel so empowered and stable.
I love what you're saying. And I just have the gut feeling that you also have such a mindset that complements what you're going through. What are some practices that you feel like could help you with this journey as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just to kind of throw the basics of Arlene out, what Arlene does is it helps calm our central nervous system. And our central nervous system is our intuition. And as women, that's what we are. We're incredibly intuitive. And so as we're embarking on supporting ourselves with essential minerals, antioxidants, and digestive supports, and we're committing to not only noticing when we shift, but making a choice to change the way we support ourselves as we shift. We know that we're doing this to create stability and to heal our central nervous system so that we can feel more connected to our body. So when we're in fight or flight all the time and our central nervous system is really heightened, we're actually creating a disconnect from our intuition or causing a lot of instability in our intuition. So then what we feel like are crazy people, like we aren't sure what we think anymore. And we're kind of confused because we're living in fight or flight. And so some practices that I do, and really the backbone of my health and wellness and embodiment of the highest expression of wellness, is to focus on healing my central nervous system, healing my gut health, and really honoring the way that my body feels. I think it's something that we're doing in society, and as women, we've just like tried to be very linear.
Or Band-Aid. There's like constant love for the Band-Aid method.
And I think that society has finally given up on the Band-Aid. We've just realized that, you've got to address it at some point, So the other thing with, Arlene Cycle Support or taking any type of natural holistic essential minerals is that it's a patient process. You have to be patient through it, but it's something that, creates stability from the inside out and for long-term success. We don't ever want to micromanage our hormones. We don't need to micromanage our health. And a lot of the Band-Aids are micromanaging things. It's like almost look at the body as like the strongest, most powerful thing there is. There isn't anything that you can give me that my body can't do on its own. So let's support the body so that it can micromanage itself and not go for all the little micromanagement things to create more disruption and more disconnect for our body. So I think one of the most empowering things that I can offer as far as mindset is to focus on the central nervous system and healing the central nervous system. Focus on detoxifying the body. So every day do one thing that helps, like just as small as drinking enough water or maybe taking some dandelion root. It's becoming really popular again to do castor oil packs over the liver, because when we can detoxify the body, we can strengthen the body because of the world that we're sort of living in right now. And so I think that by doing those two things, we create more stability in the body, deeper connection with intuition, and we kind of know what to do. When we're highly intuitive and we're listening to our body, we're creating this beautiful language between how our body feels and this now habit of when my body feels like this, I'm going to do something to help and support it.
I love that. So like, what would you say is like the starting point for somebody who, feels like they've seen the Western doctors and, said the things and it's just not quite lining up? Like, where does one start? Because there is so much information out there and everyone's got an opinion, like you said at the top of the interview, and we've talked about it actually a lot on this podcast, how the health and wellness space can be very contradictory. Like, it can feel very isolating and alone. Where do we start?
Yeah. And that resonates so deeply with me. I just remember just not even, for when you go through a thing where you want to try all the things and you want to believe all the people and then you just throw everything away and say, I'm not doing anything. And then we have to start at a baseline. And this is what I love about being able to produce Arlene for people, is to literally hand over a kit and say, in the last 20 years of my research, this is where you can start. Like, this is the baseline and sky's the limit for you, because this is a system that I did when I could barely even hold my cell phone up to my fear. I was so fatigued and in such adrenal burnout to the embodiment of wellness, and everything in between. And so I'm so excited for the Arlene Cycle Support Kit as being a start point for women. Achieving optimal health is available to all of us. I think until someone would, got on board with Arlene or it's not ready and available yet, that the very most simple thing everyone can do is pick up calcium magnesium. So calcium magnesium is incredibly calming to the system. It supports every aspect of our health and wellness. And there's been several studies that have showed that we're actually all incredibly deficient in calcium magnesium. Huh. Yeah.
I feel like that's not a good thing that we're all. So is it in the food? We're not getting enough in the food. Who knows?
So we're definitely not getting enough minerals and nutrients in our food supply. And thank goodness we've got a lot of new companies, trailblazers that are addressing the issue with the soil. So, we kind of have gone through.
It really starts with the soil.
Yeah. We've kind of gone through a phase where it was like quantity over quality in every aspect of our lives, And so when it comes to factory farming, we were not really taking the time to let the soil regenerate and remineralize and just continuing to use the soil after soil after the soil. Right. And there's studies that say like now the minerals and the vitamins that you would have gotten in eating one apple 15 years ago, you would have to eat 10.
What?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
So we're incredibly deficient right now.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I don't know, why the calcium magnesium has been so depleted in our society, but we are incredibly depleted. And I think it's just a good counterbalance to how overactive our society is right now. It's really overstimulating. We have a lot of new inventions and technologies, and the calcium magnesium will really just support and calm the body through like a really overstimulating society as well.
I'm going to take a hard left a little bit, but you're a mom, you run Arlene Cycle Support, you do all these things. Like, how do you find the balance? And clearly you're very in touch with yourself, but I feel as though, the entrepreneur life, it's so glamorized. And we talk a lot on this podcast about kind of taking away the glamour. What do you attribute that success to?
I really attribute it to Arlene Cycle Support.
Wow.
I have to say, even when I knew Arlene before I had my babies, and she helped me reclaim my health before I was even pregnant. She supported me through my pregnancies and through nursing. She passed away a few years ago, but I remember I wasn't always this calm. I wasn't always this in tune with my body, but Arlene was my lifeline. Yes, my cycle support, but I would have it in my purse. I was known as the vitamin lady. It was just like the one thing I could count on.
The vitamin girl.
It was the one thing I could count on. It was my one constant. It was my one check-in with my body, and the one thing that I was doing on a daily basis to really support myself. And I have to tell you, to this day, with my mindset and what I know about energy and the power of the body, I still don't live without my Arlene. I never will.
Yeah.
It's my one constant. And when we create that constant stability, and it only has to be one thing, as small as literally just popping my supplements in my mouth, continuing to go, I feel strong, I feel balanced, my body is healthy. And it's the one thing for me.
Wow. I love that it all really comes back to your body can do so much, and we're just feeding the source with more that it might be missing and whatnot. What do you think is the commonality mentally between women and not getting involved in something like this, or continually falling back to Band-Aid method, if that makes sense? Why do we not want to figure it out?
It's interesting. And I think part of my mission is to really empower women. I think there's a level of insecurity that they don't believe that we're that powerful, because we have been Band-Aiding for so long. And it has been so frustrating that the belief system, and you see women get gung-ho, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the diet, I'm going to do the detox.
It feels like a big cup of coffee.
Yeah, 5 or 10 days later, or even a month later, you don't see really great results. And it's kind of a faith shaker. I think we need to get to a point where we realize come hell or high water, I'm doing this. Like, I know that I'm powerful. Like, I know that I'm strong. And I know that when I support my body, I'm going to heal from the inside out. And I'm literally going to be a new person. Like, I look even like a new person. Like, you see women that embark on the journey of Arlene and they literally change from the inside out. We have to know that it's possible for us. We have to believe that it's possible. We have to create this consistent, unwavering faith in supporting the body from the inside out. And I feel like we need to make that like basic common knowledge. I think we've forgotten that we need to create health and stability from the inside out.
And I kind of heard you say this in a different interview that like these things are essential and have been around for so long. Like the proof is in the pudding, but it's just there's been a lot of stuff kind of in between. And we just need to get back to like a little bit of, well, this worked for a really long time without all that other fancy stuff in between. Why don't we just try this?
Yeah. And, you know, when you try something like this, your body knows right away. Like I have incredible teachers, women's health specialists, healers that are like, oh, that's really great that you're doing it. I don't think that I need any additional support. And I say, well, why don't you try it? And they'll say, wow, you don't realize how crappy you feel until you feel better. So I think that we've also just become accustomed to like not feeling good is pretty normal.
Right.
Not having a lot of energy is pretty normal. Brain fog is pretty normal.
Yeah.
Imbalanced,
I would say I think all of those things are very normal.
Yeah. Until you really feel supported and you notice that shift right away, we almost don't know how not optimal we're feeling. We've just grown really accustomed to like, this is totally normal for me. And so I think it's an incredible journey and an opportunity for the body to start to be supported in the basics, you know, and to kind of listen to the body and how it feels. And then it begins to blossom. It's like, I love this. I don't want to live without it.
Do you think there's anything you did that really helped you get so in tune with listening to your own body? Maybe I'm living in a little bit of like the distrust of trusting my own gut feelings. And, you know, I want to hear how we can really like actually listen to ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it helps that I'm 41 because it's—
You are not.
You know, after you have 3 babies and we gain a little bit of perspective, one of the things that we're really trying to break away from is the mold, right? Of the like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And as women, we're really just wanting to be responsible. I think we're really just wanting to do what we're supposed to do.
100%.
And so we're trying to fit into the box that I need to go to the gym and I need to do this and I need to eat that. There comes a point in our life where we almost just break free from the mold. And it's like, you know, I'm actually going to do what feels good. I'm actually going to say that even though my personal trainer is amazing and he has so much knowledge, I'm recognizing that when I go to the gym, I don't feel good. I actually feel more depleted. So I'm not going to continue to do something that's making me feel depleted. I'm going to try Pilates or I'm going to try yoga. And we start to venture outside of the mold of what it should look like and what we're supposed to do to kind of more what feels good to me? What am I seeing? What's giving me results? And there's a fair line of uncomfortability as we're creating stability. We don't want to not honor that, you know, something that's a little bit challenging or uncomfortable for a period of time. But I think it comes with age and wisdom. And I think for younger generations, they can really be inspired by the wisdom of women that are saying, listen, you must honor how your body feels. And we start with calming the central nervous system so that we actually know what our body feels like in a very stable space and go from there, making choices and living a life that we're listening to our body and what feels good.
And if you could go back to yourself at like 20, 23, 24, when this was all starting, like what would you say to yourself about this?
Yeah. I feel so grateful for my journey. And I think that when we're growing and we're learning, that the journey is the journey. It was meant to be. Every step is the right step. We're always heading in the right direction. And whether it looks like it or not at the time, I'm the person I am because of those moments. I allowed myself to get sick. I allowed myself to go to a journey where I unraveled myself and was able to learn how to put myself back together so that I could share that with other women and so that I could create a product line that will help women and help humanity and help the world. Had I not allowed that journey to happen, I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have now in order to be inspiring and to be empowering. And so to go back to that 20-year-old person, you're always on the right path, no matter what it looks like at the time. And when you step back and you look back in hindsight, we're always doing exactly what we need to be doing in the moment. And the journey comes together. And so it's important to just honor the journey, to look back and to smile about the journey, the ups and the downs, and to know that there's purpose in all of it.
Oh, Melissa, you've given me goosebumps. I am so impressed with you. Can you please tell everybody where they can find everything about you, and as well as Arlene Cycle Support?
Yes, I'm so excited for this product line to launch. Right now, the website is still underway, but you can find Arlene Cycle Support on Instagram. It's arlene.cycle.support. We have an amazing program for those of you who hear about it. It's called the Founding Members Program. It's not something that I promote or I'm not spending a lot of marketing promoting, but it's really, you'll have access to the first batch of product when it comes. It'll be a family and friends discounted rate as a lifetime. And so if you find the Instagram page and feel called to apply to be a founding member, that's an incredible opportunity for you. And we can expect product to be launching in January.
Yay! Oh my gosh. And where can everybody find you as well?
Yes. And I'm melissa.jones on Instagram and melissajones.com.
Amazing. Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl, and a huge thank you to Melissa for coming on the show. Guys, if you're loving the show, don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show. You can also check us out on all social platforms. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next Tuesday.